Susadai 𝐀𝐿. My name is George Chigas, and today is Friday, March 7th, 2025 at 8:30 a.m. Cambodia time. And I'm here to welcome you to another Center for Khmer Studies webinar. Today's webinar is entitled A Brief Review of Traditional Curing Practices in Cambodia. And our presenter is Mr. Sokro Suong. And the presentation will deal with an examination of the healthcare sector and traditional Cambodian medicine within a royal Buddhist context from ancient times to the present, by examining Cambodian therapeutic practices and the representations associated with them over a long period of time. The aim of Mr. Suong's study is to grasp the evolving meaning within a Buddhist royal context that has been perpetuated for about 1,000 years. This elemental structure, which is at once social, political, and religious, was inaugurated under Jayavarman VII at the end of the 12th century, and is continued and endured until the present time under King Norodom Sihamoni, while at the same time undergoing constant change and shifts in meaning. Our speaker today, let me say a word about him. Mr. Sokro Suong is a graduate, a 2015 graduate from the Faculty of Archaeology at the Royal University of Fine Arts in Phnom Penh. In 2017, Sokro got his master's degree in Human and Social Sciences from the National Institute of Oriental Languages and Civilization, that's INALCO, in Paris. And currently he's pursuing his doctoral degree in historical anthropology at INALCO. His research topic, as I've been mentioning, is historical anthropology of therapeutic practices within a Buddhist royalty, specifically the case of the Khmer Kingdom, the late 15th century to the early 21st century. Sokro is currently the executive director of Yosotor and also a lecturer of Cambodian history and Old Khmer epigraphy at the Royal University of Fine Arts, RUFA, in Phnom Penh. So I'm very fortunate to have Mr. Suong with us today. And without any further ado, as they say, I will hand the floor over to him to present his research findings. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. First, I would like to extend my warm welcome to all, and a special thanks to Professor George Chigas for the introduction of me. And it is a great honor and privilege to share with you today a significant part of my thesis research. And I am also grateful to CKS for providing me this with these opportunities. The topic I would like to share with you today is a brief review of the history of ancient traditional medical practices or healthcare in Cambodia from ancient times through the historical and archaeological evidences to the present, which we can still observe. So for the brief introductions, until today, traditional medicine is still a part of Khmer people, especially for those living in rural areas or just a bit outside the city. When we ask them about illness and treatment, we often notice that they refer to Kru or Kru Khmer, mean traditional healer or traditional practitioner. And those Kru are really knowledgeable about specific herbal remedies and also familiar with the holistic healing method, magical recitation, and various other techniques. Traditional healer mostly are Buddhist monk, Acha. Acha is ceremony officiants or respected elders in the community who used to be monks passed a part of their lifetime in Buddhist monastery. The traditional Khmer medicine refer to English word empirical medicines. It means the medical acts involves using herbal remedy, plants, mineral, and animal substances. And it's believed that this remedy need to be combined with a particular magical formula to be effective. Medical acts without any magical invention or practices would be like potency. Traditional Khmer medicine is closely tied to the belief, religions, and spirituality of the people. Another word, traditional medicine has played a vital role in Cambodian society for centuries, deeply rooted in the country, cultural, spiritual, and historical heritage. And traditional Khmer medicine influenced by indigenous knowledge, Ayurvedic medicine, and also Chinese medicine. Cambodian traditional healing practices have been passed down through generations. Yeah. So before the introduction of modern medical practices, traditional healer known as Kru Khmer serve as the primary healthcare provider using natural ingredients and ancient wisdom to treat illnesses. And in this discussion, we will explore the history of traditional medicine in Cambodian, its evolution over time, and its enduring significance in contemporary society. So we start with the pre-Angkor period. In fact, we don't have any clear historical evidence that can tell us or allow us to describe the general development of Khmer healthcare system before Angkor period. There are no written record or inscription that depict this aspect. However, despite the lack of direct evidence, it is understood that ancient society in Southeast Asia, including Cambodia, were significantly influenced by both India and China. Therefore, it is believed that ancient Khmer medicine was partly influenced by Indian Ayurveda tradition and partly by Chinese medicine, combined together with indigenous healing practices of local community. This is, however, only a general hypothesis based on limited evidence. But the question that we should ask is how much influence did India and China have on the development of Khmer traditional medicine? So the question requires further comparative research into the ancient medical system of each part, such as it should involve with Indologists, Sinologists, and Khmer anthropology or Khmerology, etc. Ayurvedic medicine is a traditional healing system from India that has been practiced for over 2,000 years. And it focuses on balancing the body, mind, and spirit of maintain health. And treatment often include herbal remedies, special diet, massage, and oil therapy, yoga, meditation, etc. This for those who wish to understand more or to gain a deeper understanding of the influence of Indian medicine on Khmer society, I recommend you reading the following books. The first one is Komara Tantra de Ravana by Jean-Philippe, and the second one is post-Angkorian à la médecine traditionnelle Khmer by Dr. Ang Julian. Yeah. So these sources will provide detailed insights into how Indian tradition have impacted health and wellness practices in Khmer culture. Um, sorry. Yes, there is almost no evidence from archaeology and inscription that indicate the medical field in ancient Cambodia. But however, through certain words originating from Sanskrit related to magic and medical sector, we can assume that ancient Khmer medicine was influenced by India. For example, the word Vaitya, which become bad in Khmer, rog, disease or sickness, Kachara, Kjol, Agama, Kirtha, Vyati, Skon, etc. So yeah, these words are the words influenced by Sanskrit word. During the archaeological surveys and excavation, we discovered two objects that we call in Khmer Mobo, that we believe to be used in medicine and ingredient preparation. And remarkably, these tools are still actively used in India today. Until 12th century, during the reign of King Jayavarman VII, the healthcare sector saw significant development. Through the inscription at Taprum Temple, it is known that during his reign, there were 102 hospitals, or in Sanskrit word called Arupyasala, means the place of no sickness. Built throughout the kingdom, and those hospitals operated quite similarly. And at that time, the greatest god was Buddha Lokitesvara, and in the hospital, they housed the statue of Paisya or medicine Buddha, along with two other deities, Torya Vairocana and Chandra Vairocana, who are the celestial Bodhisattva responsible for eliminating all disease. Here at the left side is the statue of Lokitesvara, also known as Avalokitesvara, a man Bodhisattva in Mahayana Buddhism. He symbolizes compassion and is believed to hear the cry of suffering being. He also offering aid and guidance. Avalokitesvara is often depicted with multiple arms, heads, or eyes, representing his ability to perceive the suffering of all living being and reach out to help them. At the right side, you see the statue of Paisya Guru, the medicine Buddha, holds significant importance in Mahayana Buddhism and as a deity of healing and medicine. He is believed to have the power to cure physical disease, mental distress, and spiritual confusion, making him a central figure for those seeking health and wellness. A well-known inscription has been discovered in Saiphong, near the capital city of Vientiane, actually. In Laos now, which was first studied by Louis Finot, a French researcher. The inscription is written in Sanskrit and contains 48 verses. The verse 13 is a famous one, a famous quote that expressed the sentiment of the King Jayavarman VII. The quote said that he suffered from the illnesses of his subject more than from his own, for it is public pain that make him pains and not their own pain. So this quote is really famous until now. In the verse 17, it mentions that there was also a hospital built there along with the Saukatama Sram. It's mean temple for Buddhism, and it describes the staffing detail of a hospital associated with the hospital employ at least 101 individuals in various roles, emphasizing a diverse and holistic approach to healthcare, such as medical team, support team, nursing staff, cultural and spiritual support, and other additional and unprecise role. Yeah. In the inscriptions, also mentioned 36 medical substances used in the hospital, and those substances are still recognized and used in today's treatment, such as honey, pepper, turmeric, long pepper, sugar, sesame, cardamom, ginger, etc. So it's still well known. It's still used by our healer now. Currently, the hospital building have disappeared because they were probably and theoretically made from the lightweight material, likely wood, and covered by clay tile. So only the stone sanctuary still present. So far, some archaeological sites of the hospital have been excavated. This allows us to understand their architectural organization. And so as you see in the picture, this is this is an example of archaeological excavation program led by archaeological research team of the Apsara National Authority and students from Institute of Southeast Asian Studies, Singapore in 2017 at Taprumagal Temple. The hospital built together in temple complex, and the temple itself served as a prayer edifice for staff and patients. And the hospital, temple, and its appendix have a unique and constant model. In the central tour dedicated to the three Mahayana Buddhist deities such as Buddha Paishyaguru and his successor Jayavarman and Chandravairocana. Again, the Buddha Paishyaguru is a master healer or medicine Buddha, when the other two are the Bodhisattva who have the power to dry out all diseases. The hospital still also tell us, the hospital inscription also tell us that just to speak of the name of this god is enough to cure mental and physical illness. Where did they study? By studying the epigraphy of the foundation styles of the Prakhan and Taprom temple, which date from the same range, help us understand that this temple were also placed for essential education in the other word monastic university under Jayavarman VII. And medical training was also provided within these Buddhist monastery spaces. There they learn Sanskrit, religions, philosophy, medicine, and other disciplines. For medical teaching, pulse examining is an essential diagnostic tool. And as we find later, some manuscripts from middle period that describe the diagnostic method of pulsation. So this is the evidence of the continuity of this tradition. So in brief, in any case, researchers show that medical practices in ancient Cambodia is linked to religions and politics. Its curing system largely influenced from religious belief, especially Mahayana Buddhism. On the other hand, my medicine is also influenced by more or less by Indian, Ayurvedic medicine, and Chinese medicine. The bas-relief located at Baiyuan Temple and believed to be an ancient curing since. Also here, still at Bayon Temple, and this scene probably tell about baby delivery. Yeah. For this bas-relief is from Lek Niang Temple. Some researchers suggest that these scenes depict the examination of a patient's pulse. However, researchers are still hesitant to clearly state what these scenes exactly represent. Yeah, some researchers believe it is maybe a scene showing the pulse examination, but other researchers still hesitate to say that. This is a very famous temple called 𝐀𝐿. It was built during the same reign, Jayavarman VII, and it's also one of the most captivating architectural achievement. It is of the regular proportion, with a square basin surrounded by 4 small basins, and which indeed represented the lake of Anavatapata from Indian mythology. This temple is considered the source of all the sacred river of India in Buddhist cosmology, and it is also known as a temple with healing virtue because its miraculous water heals the sick. From an architectural standpoint, the most notable part of this temple is the central section, where the tower floats in the middle of the water like an island. It is there that pilgrims came to ask the beneficial sacred water for healing. The inscription of Prakhan mentioned that the water of 𝐀𝐿 basin is indeed sacred, and researchers assume that 𝐀𝐿 is a sacred place where the faithful and those suffering from certain illness come here for the purification and healing. Even today, the villagers, the descendants of Angkorian civilization who live around the temple no longer know about this Indian mythology, but the memory of it remains vividly circulate and passed from one to another. It is still recognized that 𝐀𝐿 is one of the potential and sacred place for the healing of the sick. And specifically, the 4 small chapel called Prasat Haura here, mean temple for the seer. These are known as places where people come to pray in order to find the causes of the illness. So when they have when they get sick, they come to the Prasat Haura and pray for finding the cause of the illness. Yes. Moreover, in case of illness, the villager would voluntarily come together the medicinal plants nearby or in the temple complex. So this plant, in fact, this plant grow naturally and really easy to find everywhere in Angkor regions. But at 𝐀𝐿, medicinal plants are really exceptional. 𝐀𝐿𝐭𝐫𝐚𝐜, a Chinese missionary who arrived and lived in Angkor for a year, from 1296 to 1297. He made a detailed description in his travel journal about the daily life in Angkor, and it is the only foreign writing document that is both ethnographic and historical among the essential source of Angkorian life. Regarding the illness in Angkor, 𝐀𝐿𝐭𝐫𝐚 noted that people were often sick, and one of the common diseases was leprosy. The leper were seen on the road. They live normally with others because people do not contract this disease through the contact with them. And leprosy was a disease people were accustomed and should not be underestimated, because there was also a king who contracted this disease too, and the king prohibited to look down or underestimate all the leper. So the history of the king leper is still in the memory of people in Angkor area. Additionally, for 𝐀𝐿 people caught the disease because of the excessive bathing, and he mentioned that people bath several times a day, and even at nighttime they did it once or twice. So it really contrast opposite from Chinese people. On the other hand, 𝐀𝐿 found that most people with dysentery died, and at least 8 or 9 times out of 10. And he also saw that the drugs were sold at the market, and he also noticed the existence of sorcerers who practice their exorcism to the people. So a short conclusion, we don't really know how the hospital established during the reign of the King Jayavarman VII continued its operation after his time. So this requires further research. However, until the end of the 20th century, the Buddhist monasteries still play an important role in educating in various subjects, both religious and general, such as literature, mathematics, architecture, and medicine, etc. During the middle period, just in short, in Cambodian history, the middle period of Cambodia refers to the time between the decline of the Angkor Empire and the beginning of the French colonization. So between the 15th and early of 19th century. During the middle period, we have numbers of medical manuscripts. So some of them are preserved in National Library of France, carried away by the French commissioner during colonial time. And the author of those texts are mostly monks and acharya. So it is clear that those medical knowledge is one part come from Buddhist monastery. This example of Sastra leaf talk about medication for straightening, and it is a manuscript on Latin leaf. So this is another example of medicinal manuscript on accordion paper, or in Khmer called 𝐀𝐿𝐭. In this manuscript, describe various of illness inside. Mostly at the last leaf of the manuscript mention the name of the author or engraver, who were often monk and acharya. So the sources allow us to understand the health system during the middle period of Cambodia. So from disease to remedy, including practitioner and diagnostic method, by studying those medical manuscripts, we know about common disease and their remedy, and the healing method, medicinal ingredient, type of medicine, medicinal composition, fabrication process, and dosage, etc. During French colonial period, there were some studies done by French scholar, missioner, or researcher. Here, I would like to share some examples from a study by Dr. Bernard Monod in a publication entitled Matière Medicinal Cambodian, Matière Medical Cambodian, means Cambodian medical substances. Published in 1930. Dr. Monod wrote about several Cambodian traditional healers who had different approaches to treatment. The first thing he observed was that traditional medicine practices that are still in use today are the result from the knowledge passed down through generation, from parent to children, from one family to another, and from master to successor. And those practitioners are well versed in the method of using plants, animal, and mineral sources, and they know how to use them effectively. And additionally, another observation is that the treatment method of all those healers are closely tied to their belief. In this book, Dr. Bagnamono mentioned several healers or kru Khmer, but here I would like to talk only about the one kru named Kru Paen, because I would like to highlight the effectiveness of Khmer traditional healer in the field of science. Kru Paen is an illiterate. However, he has a special skill as a well-known leprosy healer. According to Dr. Bagnamono, Kru Paen was one of the most famous leprosy healer in Cambodia at that time, in the 1930s. And even after his death, no one could match his expertise. Notably, in his treatment of leprosy, he used fruit of crocodile. And he is considered the first person who used the medicinal fruit as a remedy for leprosy. And later, that fruit was recognized by modern French doctors as scientifically effective for the treatment of leprosy. So in 1915, the French authority officially acknowledged him by giving him a certificate and recognized him as the discoverer of the leprosy treatment. During his treatment, Kru Paen Kru Paen received every leper to treat by himself at his house, and none of those who stayed with him was required to pay him in money. He sold his drug only to the wealthiest or to those who came to consult him and then returned home to treat themselves with the supply of medicines purchased. The hospitalized generally paid him in kind, but for example, working with him in his rice field or helping him to cure a new patient, etc. Today in Cambodia, wherever we go, there are still traditional healers available. Those their number have declined, especially in rural and remote areas. Traditional healing practices remain popular, even as the population simultaneously seek modern healthcare services. I would like to take the eastern part of the Angkor region, where I did the observation as example here. So by doing the research, I communicate with dozens of traditional healers, but here I will only mention only few of them. The red point show the location of each traditional practitioner in eastern part of Angkor region. Yes, the first crew is Kru Sai. Kru Sai live in Ralof village, and he is now 76 years old. He's an Acha among other Acha in Ralof monastery. He is both Acha and a traditional healer. So before becoming a physician practicing traditional medicine, he studied this medical knowledge since being ordained at the pagoda at the age of 17. So he learned from both monk and crew from various villages. In total, he learned from 6 crew. One of his crew was Venerable Pech at Fort Lom Roland. Nowadays, Kru Sai know how to treat common disease and those caused by curse or magic or spell, but this is provoked by spell or magic. He said for healing the patient, some of them only need to recite magic formula, while others require medication. And sometimes if the patient relative familiar with medicinal plant, they can obtain them on their own. If not, they bring him directly to the forest for medicinal plant finding. The biggest source of medicine is Gulen Mountain. Here is a curing place, his curing place. Patient require intensive treatment must stay in a plastic tent built directly next to the healer's hut. Their patients are responsible for their own food and necessary need. The accommodation fee is free. So currently, he is accepting 2 more students from nearby village, which is not very far from Siem Reap city. Yeah, so he teach 2 students. Another group named Kru Rươm. He is 71 years old and currently living in Kuk Srok village in the Lu commune, Siem Reap. He treats patients at his home, and there he built a small shed from wooden stripe roofed with palm leaf and without wall. He just behind his house. This is used to accommodate patients for treatment. Kru Rươm is renowned for his treatment method called Och, where he treats illnesses using incense and palm leaf pressed onto the patient body. Yes, as like you see in the picture. Och or burning is a method which consists of lighting 1 or more incense sticks, which will then be used to lightly burn the skin or the place where the disease is supposed to be located by placing the dry plataneer or palm leaf, dry palm leaf underneath. So every day, patients come from near and far to see him, including those from the same village, nearby village, and from a distance such as Siem Reap city, Siem Reap ville, and other provinces, even from Thailand. These patients come from all walks of life, including women, men, young, old, the wealthy, the poor, soldier, doctor, even modern doctor, and the market vendor. Some people come for holy water ritual or to receive amulet blessing for their business. And some of them do not just visit one, but have been multiple times already. Yes. For all those patients, call the healer, call Kru Rươm father or Puk, and call his wife Mai or mother. In return, the healer call the patient he treat 𝐿 or children. So they show about the relation between healer and the patient. Yes. And those who come to see the healer often bring various things such as cigarette, betel, food, fish, meat, and other ingredients to offer to the healer and his wife. So they really love the healer family like their relative. Patient who came for the treatment left photo as a souvenir for him. Among them were also modern doctors, and some came from surrounding area, while others traveled from far during, including those from Thailand. Yeah, so she is from Thailand. She is a modern doctor. Another group called Grupet. He is a monk healer. Yes, 60 years old, based in the Lay Monastery, master of medicine and exorcist. He is a traditional healer since he was the age of since 20 years. The continuation of this monk healer medical knowledge occurs within the family and within the Buddhist cycle, passed down from his grandfather to his father and then to him. currently, Krupet has a son who is ordained as a monk at the lay monastery, and there he also learned a traditional medicine from Krupet. Yeah. So Krupet believed that it is because his lineage consists entirely of traditional healer that it is their destiny to become traditional practitioner. So Krupet said that every day he receives a patient and he has no day off. So someday, due to the extreme exhaustion, he need to leave his residence just to take a break outside. Just at the ears of his residence, there is a place dedicated to treating patients. Their patient can stay for a period of time during the treatment. So accommodation and medical treatment are free. Food and other needs are patient responsibility. And one of his expertise is curing in the method of using steam inhalation, or in Khmer we call it 𝐻𝐻 with traditional Khmer medicine. Yeah, another well-known is Von in the eastern part, also in eastern part of Angkor region. He is now 60 years old, master of medicine and exorcist, living in Bongkong village. Yeah, and he started his curing experience since the age of 18. In the annex of his house, we can see around 10 dormitories for the patient. So patient came to stay there for an indefinite period. Some might stay for a week, other for a month. And if the illness lasts for several years, then the care must be provided for those years as well. And his patient include both local villagers and those from distant places, such as from Battambang, from other provinces. And most of the people who come to stay and receive treatment at his house are victims of the spell of the exorcist. And nowadays, he really has time to work in his right field, because he's busy caring for the patient, and the patient continuously come to seek the treatment at his home, and he receive payment based on the patient ability to pay once they recover without any demand. Despite being cured, those patients frequently return to visit and express their gratitude, often bringing gift or food or anything else to the healer. So this creates an ongoing relation between the healer and his patient. In case of medicinal plan require patient or their relative can go and find by themselves nearby the village, but under the direction of the healer. So to identify the cause of the illness, two approaches are used: non-magical and magical way. The non-magical method involves observing the patient's concrete symptom. If a patient is ill and specific illness is unknown, a traditional healer typically begins by asking about the symptom. The healer inquires about the origin of the nature of the pain by asking, like, where did it start? Is the pain on the right or the left side or in the chest, etc. So the question helps the healer determine the most appropriate initial treatment. Then the healer administers a prescribed medicine for the patient to take, monitoring how the illness responds. And if the initial treatment proves ineffective, the healer will try a different medication. And if the illness cause remain unclear, the healer may resort to alternative method rooted in traditional belief. So the magical approach includes 4 different methods. The first one is by bowl. Bowl is the practicing of divination, predicting the future or finding the cause of a problem, or by using various ritual objects such as a basket maker knife, or we call it kambat mentua, betel nut blackening knife shear, or pana, or betel nut knife kambat sla. The second one is by meditation. So the healer do the meditation to find the cause of the illness. The third method is by spirit possession. In Khmer we call Banchuan Rup. So Banchuan Rup is one of the popular way to find the cause, especially the illness provoked by spirit. And the last one is by Lea. Lea is the practice involve rolling an edge or a ball of flour over the patient body, and it is believed that if the patient is suffering due to a spell, a sorcerer, provoked by a sorcerer, the object associated with the cure will be extracted from the body along with the edge or ball of flour. So this picture shows an old woman practicing bowl prana. Bowl prana involves placing a grain of rye on the top here, on the top of the prana. Then one begins to ask the spirit where the source of the illness come from. The questioning continue until the correct answer is given, at which point the prana string will sway back and forth on its own. This is a bowl kambat mentua. So bowl kambat mentua is a ritual involving a ball with a bit of rice inside, and in the center of the plate of the bowl there is a piece of bamboo split into two, and a divination knife is inserted into the middle of the bamboo piece. So the ritual begin by asking the spirit about the source of the illness. So once the correct answer, the correct source is identified, the knife will stand upright on its own. Yeah. This photo showing Kruvon, who is doing the meditation to find the illness cause of the patient. This is an age already used for the ritual of Lea, also to find the source of the sickness. In the transmission of medical knowledge within the Kru tradition, we can observe two main types of learning pathway. The first type occurs within the Buddhist monastic cycle, where individuals learn medical treatment during their time in the monastery as ordained monk. And this method relies on the structure, environment, and teaching of the monastic community. And the second type of transmission happens outside the Buddhist cycle, where knowledge is passed down directly from a master to a successor, or it occurs through familiar line, with medicinal knowledge being handed down from father to son, from grandfather to grandson, etc. And this method emphasizes personal mentorship and family tradition in transmission of medical practices. Besides the transmission of these two models, there is still another one. Yeah, in this letter, tell about a monk become a traditional healer due to understanding received in the dream or message from the spiritual entity. In this letter, a Cambodian monk named Saim, residing at Wat Koh Pagoda in Phnom Penh, wrote a letter to the Resident Superior of France on September 10, 1928, describing a vision that inspired him to act against a cholera epidemic in the Cambodia region. Pradachakun Saim experienced a dream where the late King Sisawat appeared in his dream, offering knowledge about certain medication to cure the disease. Using this guidance, he successfully treated several patients, so ensuring none die during the outbreak. So which has now ended. So Pradachakun Saim requests officially permission to use this medication to have current epidemic to help the victim. He asked the what can I say? He asked the permission to the French governor to accept him for giving treatment to the patient. So what kind of benefit from curing for the traditional healer? Traditional healer don't impose or demand anything after treatment. They receive payment based on what the patient can afford. So most of their patients are local from nearby area. And being a traditional healer hasn't helped improve their life significantly apart from the daily exhaustion. Original quote from, this is an original quote from the healer. He said, beside the daily exhaustion, he get nothing. But the traditional healer is a respected figure in their community. Some patients are grateful to the healer for saving their lives. So every year they come to help them for agriculture work. And some patients return to visit their healer to offer them small amount of money or other things during the festivity period, such as Khmer New Year, Phnom Penh, and other religious ceremony. In short, we see that the continuation of this ancient medical knowledge largely takes place in Buddhism context, primarily being taught in Buddhist monastery. And currently, the learning and continuation of ancient medical practices have changed significantly in response to societal shift and are facing a decline. Several issues contribute to this. For example, young generation today seem less interested in learning ancient medicine. And the transmission of traditional medicine to young generation is not feasible automatically. It also depend on some condition between master and learner. For example, master need to find out the potential motivation, etc. of their successor. Each group has its own taboo or restriction. It is the responsibility of the traditional healer if his successor cannot obey the taboo. Being a healer requires a lot of patience, enduring exhaustion while caring for a patient day and night without expecting much in return. So the abandonment of skill due to fatigue has also led to a decrease of traditional healer. The pressure from modern medical law that restrict traditional healer add to the difficulty that some groups face in their practices. And the last one is the migration of movement among young people seeking work in the city or abroad also contribute to detachment from the elder to young generation. So I would like to finish my presentation here, and yeah, I'm waiting for the question. Thank you so much.
Okoncharan, thank you very much for that really interesting presentation. We have several attendees today, and I anticipate that we'll have several questions for you. And I invite everyone who's attended today's presentation to please post any questions you have in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and we'll get to those one by one. Before we do, we have a good amount of time for discussion here today. So I just would like to give some personal feedback after listening to your presentation. And I find it, of course, extremely interesting to hear about traditional Khmer medical practices, and specifically your work with researching 𝐻𝐿 today and their practices. You know, as historians and anthropologists has been telling us for a while that the Khmer people have been living in the Mekong region for thousands of years. At least 2,000, archaeological evidence tells us at least 2,000 years before the beginning of the Christian era. So Khmer people have been living here, and Khmer cultural production has been going on for over 4,000 years, a long time. You know, we see things like wet rice production, the belief in animism, living in stilt houses, you know, several cultural practices that have been going on over these 4,000 years continuously. It's kind of amazing to think about. And today's presentation for me tells us that, you know, the 𝐻𝐿 are another window on that period of time that go back through the centuries to this pre-historical period to give us a sense of these indigenous cultural practices and cultural production of the Khmer people that lived here in this period of time, 2,000 years before the Christian era. So for me, that is one of the takeaways that I have that is so interesting, you know, similar to Khmer music and dance, which is another window on that time, certainly language and literature, another window of, you know, Khmer cultural production that spans these thousands of years. We'll work with the 𝐻𝐿 and traditional medical practices is another one of these windows, and the evidence that you've been gathering from architectural evidence and epigraphical evidence starts to fill in some of these questions, answer some of these questions. But what's certainly amazing just is the 𝐻𝐿 today and the practices that they do, and just the question of, you know, the continuity between what the 𝐻𝐿 are doing today. Some of the things that you mentioned, Paul Paranat, and the Paul Kambet Pandal, I think you mentioned, you know, these are very interesting ideas and practices, and one wonders, you know, how long has this been going on? Does it go back, you know, thousands of years to this period of time? You know, it would be amazing to see in some of this archaeological evidence, evidence of that happening. Another interesting point that you mentioned for me was, you know, like language and literature, like music and dance, these ancient cultural practices have been connected to the monastery and the monarchy. And these have been the contexts for these practices to evolve and grow over time and be supported. And the last thing that I was going to mention before asking you to comment on some of this is how foreign influences that you've mentioned at the beginning of your talk have been incorporated into the existing cultural practices. So the existing cultural practices that existed before the contact with any foreign influences. And you mentioned Indian and Chinese, of course, two of the most important foreign influences on traditional Khmer cultural practices. and just speculating on reasons why certain Indian ideas or certain Chinese ideas were incorporated into the existing practices, that they resonated in some way. You know, we've heard arguments that, for example, you know, the Hindu beliefs in Mount Meru and the identification of Khmer kings with Hindu gods, you know, resonated with animistic beliefs in the presence of ancient ancestors in mountains or hilltops or in physical structures, and that this is a possible explanation for why these Indian ideas were so readily adopted by the Khmer in the early centuries of the first millennium in the current era. So these all, for me, were incredibly interesting ideas as someone who's interested in Khmer cultural history and looking for windows and ways of tracing back Cambodian cultural practices as far as possible, you know, to this pre-historical period. So I'm wondering if I can ask a question, you know, what you may see or think or speculate on as reasons why, for example, some Indian ideas resonated with the existing medical practices, medicinal practices of the ancient Khmer before the arrival of Indians in the first century of the current era. Why some of the, for example, you mentioned, you know, Buddhist gods as well, Avalok Sevara, and I think Besa Jaru, I think was the name of the Buddhist god in charge of healing, credited with healing. Why these aspects of Indian culture resonated with the existing Khmer cultural practices? I hope that's not too long a question.
Your question is a very a big question, interesting, really interesting, and a big question. Yes, like I mentioned that we require the comparative research into the ancient medical system of each part between Indian medicine and Khmer medicine, Chinese medicine together, or we work together to understand. But yes, just answer your question. We think that Cambodian and Southeast Asia accept the influence from India because we have something similar already. For example, in animism, we also believe the same thing in spirit, in nature, in something like that. So we believe in that. Just for example, we believe in that a stone, something like that. So when the Linga Shiva arrives, so we have something similar so that we can accept it. And I cannot really answer. What can I say? Maybe what might the Khmer people have adopted from Ayurveda, for example, maybe using medicinal plants or herb found locally similar to Ayurvedic herbal medicine. Believe that diet play a key role in the house, and using massage technique and herbal oil for healing. So maybe we already have it. So when we contact with Indian tradition, we have something similar, so we can we accept it easily. But you know, yeah, I just can say that I cannot answer more than that.
Yes, sure, exactly. Thank you very much. So Crow, let me go through some of the questions that have been posted to the Q&A box. There are several of them. I haven't had a chance to read through them all. Let me just start kind of randomly here, picking some out. This is from Liz Guthrie. And the question is, what information have you gathered in your research about, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, it's written in English, Sraut Tuk, water healing. Yeah, Sraut Tuk, of course, yes. Do you have any idea if Sraut Tuk is more common than today or less common? So could you comment on this idea of using Sraut Tuk, the spraying of water healing, as one of the methods of healing by the 𝐻𝐿 𝐾𝐽 and its frequency of use?
What information have you gathered in your research about Sraut Tuk water healing? More common than today, or less common? Oh yes. I can say that Sraut Tuk until exists now, people, especially in remote area, they still believe in Sraut Tuk. They go to find a monk in a monastery or a jar for having a ritual of Sraut Tuk. But I can say that compared with the past, it's less common, because at the same time, people simultaneously seek to the modern medicine. So the tradition, old tradition, is less and less practiced. Yes.
Okay, thank you. There are a lot of questions, so I'm just going to go through them. Here's one, an anonymous attendee asks, Chinese traditional medicine uses acupuncture as one of the most popular practices. The question is that it's believed that 𝐾𝐽 healers don't use this. Why do you think 𝐾𝐽 healers don't use acupuncture? And is that in fact the case?
Based on my experience, when I do the research in eastern part of Angkor region, I never see the acupuncture practice with the 𝐻𝐿 𝐾𝐽. Yeah, never have that.
It's an interesting question. Do you have any ideas why do you think it's something that was not, when we look at what foreign influences are used or accepted and which are rejected, it's a very interesting question when we see why some, for example, meditation or the use of healing substances and herbs are accepted and others are rejected. In this case, here's an example of one that's been rejected, not incorporated into existing cultural practices. Do you think there was something about acupuncture that was counter to existing beliefs?
For me,
it's just a speculative question. There's no
yes,
correct answer, obviously.
I understand that. Yes, for me, if you ask me what my people have adopted from Chinese medicine, so if I can think that herbal medicine, for example, my healer may have learned a new way to combine herb into formula, especially for treating digestion, fever, or energy imbalance, like that. That maybe they learn from Chinese. But for acupuncture itself may not have been mainstream in 𝐾𝐽 medicine. Some idea around pressure point and energy pathway could have influenced massage technique and other physical treatment. So specific acupuncture may not be used in my tradition.
Interesting. A question from Colin Grafton asks, the carving that you showed of the possibly taking the pulse one of the carvings. He asked, where is that carving? Is it in a museum or is it at the site of the Leak Niang? And he asked, where is that
Oh
temple?
yeah. If you want to say you want to see that bas-relief, you can go to Prasat Leak Niang, and it's still at the Prasat Leak Niang. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll leave it to Colin to find, to locate Prasat Leak Niang on his own. Let's see. So what is the position of Khmer healing medicine in terms of the belief and practice of the Khmer people themselves? Where are the most practice of this Khmer healing medicine or crew remain popular in the region? I guess this question just basically asks, so where are the crew Khmer located generally? You did mention in your presentation outside in more rural areas, and most of the people who go to them are from the rural areas. It does ask the question, do people from the more urban areas also utilize crew Khmer?
Yes. Like I said at the beginning of the presentation, nowadays, we can still find crew Khmer everywhere of Cambodia, but mostly they located in rural area where the modern healthcare not yet arrived, or mostly people who live in the countryside still believe in crew Khmer, because they cannot access to the modern healthcare easily. So crew Khmer still remain popular there. So yes, mostly, yeah, crew Khmer mostly still located in rural area.
Yeah, thank you. A question from our good friend Tierra Tun. He's asking about the origin of the term crew Khmer. Is there any evidence giving us an idea where the term crew Khmer comes from?
I don't really. I didn't do the research about the term of crew Khmer come from specifically, but for me, maybe we compare, because we call doctor, modern doctor, crew pet. Pet. So in order to distinct another part, so they call it crew Khmer.
It is interesting. Of course, the word crew means teacher, and
Yeah.
a knowledgeable person. Just to speculate on that, I mean, it's interesting to think that the crew Khmer is sort of the original teacher, that the original healer. So by attributing the name Khmer, this is the first Khmer teacher. Just speculation, right?
I think maybe they compare to the modern doctor, because before the beginning of the modern medicine applies in Cambodia was the European, but France was Western people. So another part they call crew Khmer because they are Khmer. So modern doctor are
to distinguish from foreign doctor. Interesting, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Another question from an anonymous attendee asked, is there any evidence that can tell us which diseases are more effectively cured by the crew Khmer? You've mentioned leprosy in the crew Khmer that was famous for curing leprosy or treating leprosy. Are there any other diseases that crew Khmer have been known to be very effective at treating?
Mostly crew Khmer is really popular for the exorcist for treating the spell, because because people believe that modern doctor cannot find the source, the cause of that kind of illness. So only Kru Khmer can help them. So Kru Khmer also popular for that kind of healing, the spell, the exorcist.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. You know, that touches on that whole idea of 𝐀𝐻𝐿, you know, the wind of the body being out of alignment, being caused by some, as you say, a spell or some spirit that has invaded the body and for some reason wants to cause illness or disrupt the person's functioning. You know, really touching back on real indigenous beliefs and spirits and animism. But of course, there's an apparent connection between that idea and psychological illnesses as well. And I'm wondering if there's any connection being made between the ideas of, for example, 𝐾𝐻𝐿 and psychological illnesses as known in the West, has been studied in the West, if there's any way of, any attempts to kind of create a correlation between the two.
Yes, in the ancient middle period, ancient manuscript in middle period, I also found a manuscript about the 𝐾𝐻𝐿. So the manuscript said that one of the main cause that make people think it's 𝐾𝐻𝐿 in the body. So in order to relieve the pain, we need to do something to get the 𝐾𝐻𝐿 out of the body. So 𝐾𝐻𝐿 is one of the method technique to, when we grab the body, something like that, the 𝐾𝐻𝐿 get out. But you know, it's really interesting, but I cannot explain more than that. I need more study.
Okay, well, yeah, that's a difficult question. Here's a more specific one. Do you know of any specific books that outline the herbs and materials that can be used in Khmer traditional healing? Is there a book that sort of describes the specific herbs and their uses that you're aware of?
Yes, there are a few books that made by Ministry of Health Science. Yeah, they do the research. Also, the Pompolin, the dictionary of plant using in Cambodia, also explain about that. But mostly in my thesis, I use manuscript, old manuscript, because in old manuscript also describe the plant, the medicinal plant used in medical tradition in healing method. Yes, but yeah,
yes, it sounds like there are some specific books that can be looked up. Thank you. Here's a question from Baron Lim. Very interesting, I think. So the Kru Khmer that you described in your presentation and the practices that they use are from this area, from Siem Reap. The question basically asks, have you find or are you aware of regional differences in the practices of Kru Khmer? So would a Kru Khmer in Battambang or in Mandalkiri or in Kandal, for example, or another province, have different practices based on more regional beliefs?
Yes, as I said, I chose the eastern part of Angkor region as an example for my study because, you know, Kru Khmer, we can find Kru Khmer everywhere in the country, but I cannot do the research everywhere because it's too large, too big for me. So I chose a specific region. But I can say that the method of healing can be different from one to other, but the basic one still the same. Just because one crew not when they learn about the traditional medicine, they not just learn with only one crew. They learn at least with 6, 7, 4, 5, 6, 7 crew at the same time. So they gain the experience from many crew together. So when they practice the curing, they can use different methods. So one crew can be different from another. So yeah, I can say that I need more research about that one day. But now, yes, I cannot tell if what kind of the different way they do.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you're a dancer and you're learning the dance Chun Po, for example, or Apsara dance, different teachers will have slightly different methods of teaching, but generally the dance is consistent from place to place. But I would say in the case of healing, this regional differences may also be connected to the availability of certain herbs and materials that would be used in healing. Some areas may have more available herbs and one kind of herb rather than another, depending on the climate and the specific
yeah, exactly.
Conditions of that place. So that would be another interesting element. Here's a very interesting question from J. Cao. Are there any female 𝐻𝐿 Khmer? And how are they received by society if there are?
Yes, I answer based on my research only. Mostly the traditional healer are men, and yeah, this is a exceptional case if there is a woman healer. Very rare, very rare. Yes, in eastern part of Angkor region, I found a female healer, a woman traditional healer, but the way she treat people is different. She called her 𝐻𝐿 because they call her 𝐻𝐿 because the method of healing people, they cure people by bite on the body. For she has a yuan, I don't know what we call it in English, yandra, a tissue yandra, like that. So she put the yuan on the body and they beat lightly on the body. So people call her 𝐻𝐿, but she is 𝐻𝐿 bite.
Yes.
But she is a really exceptional crew in the region, and maybe 150 in the country. We find rarely a woman healer, mostly because I can answer that the healing traditional medicine involved with magic, and the magic is the domain of men. It's a bit far from women. You get what I?
Yes.
The magic, the practice of the magic is the domain of the men, and women are not encouraged to practice the magical thing, because when women practice a magical, they can get she can get based on tradition, they might be one day become crazy, become full, something like that. So women is prohibited to touch to practice the magic. So the domain of magic is for men only. So a traditional medicine combine also the method of healing and magic together. That's why women is a bit far off this domain.
It's an interesting idea. Another question. Ravan Sarah Travilian. She's asking, or he's asking, are there any formal attempts to incorporate traditional healing with Western medical practices in Cambodia? So to use traditional healing methods with Western style medical practices in Cambodia.
What is they getting here? Is there formal effort within the Cambodian? Are there formal effort within the Cambodian medical establishment to integrate traditional healing by anything for patients who want to pursue both?
So using both traditional and Western methods together in Cambodia.
Yes. In fact, may I share my presentation? Sorry. So, in fact, people at the same time simultaneously go to see traditional Khmer healer, and at the same time go to meet modern doctor. And for the Ministry of Health and Science, we not just have a labor or establishment that work together between traditional healer and modern doctor, but they just allow people to seek the traditional healer if they prefer, not prohibited, but traditional healer need to respect some requirement of the for example of the hygiene requirement or something like that apply by Ministry of Health and Science. But we don't have now. I know that they are trying to work together, but we don't not yet have. We still not have any establishment that combine together between modern doctor and traditional healer.
Thank you. We have time for a couple more questions. This one deals with the inscriptions. This is from Sivuta Tan, and she asks, the names. She asked about the names of the medicines listed in the inscription at Sai Phong during the era of Jayavarman VII. Is there any? Are these terms that are used to identify the traditional medicines? Are they Sanskrit, or do you have any understanding of the origin of the terms? The words.
Yeah, the inscription were written in Sanskrit. Yeah, and in that inscription we find 36 substances, medicinal substances, but we just only know the name, and some of them we still use until today, but some of them we don't really know what is that for. But we just know the name, but the what can I say, the combination, the fabrication of the medicine, they don't mention in the inscription. We just
so
know
the names are the terms are written in Sanskrit, and are these Sanskrit words the words that would be used in India to identify these medicines?
Yeah, in fact, yeah, all the names are in Sanskrit word. So on the Vifino, he is a Sanskritist. He understands Sanskrit, and he can translate it into Khmer, what that name refer to, what ingredient in Khmer, for example. In Sanskrit word.
So this question deals with the technique that you called Pelkambat Pandal.
Yes, ball combat tour.
Oh, Bantua. Okay, sorry. Bantua. And the question asks about the connection between the knife and illness.
Yeah.
There's the illness and the patient and the knife just nearby. Illness even cannot touch the patient's body. I guess in general, to me, this question is asking, do you have any other information about how this idea evolved, that the knife is kept straight, the knife will stand up on its own when the illness is identified? Have you ever seen it yourself performed?
I also asked this question to a healer, to Kaprai who practiced the ball combat tour. I asked him why he used combat for this practice, and he just said, it's a tradition. He has no, appropriate answer to me. And me, I also try to understand why they use combat. Maybe combat they have shared to cut off the disease, something like that. But I don't really, I cannot give you an exact answer.
This question also from the same person, An Uong, asking, there were 112 hospitals documented during the Angkor era. Is there any sense of the number of patients that these hospitals could hold, the number of patients?
The number of the patient in each hospital?
Yes.
We don't know about that. We just know that each hospital work the same way. I mean, 102 hospitals have the same operation. Yeah. But
so
how many patients they get in the hospital, I don't know.
It's a very interesting idea, the concept of a hospital. And from what I understand, from what you said in other places, that the first hospitals in Cambodia is understood as such, a place for sick people to go to be treated, were created under the reign of Jayavarman VII. Is that common knowledge? And so this is a whole new idea, a place for people to go if you're sick to be treated for your illness. Is this an idea that came from India, the idea of a hospital, a place to go if you are sick, that is supported by the king? Is there any information on that? Where did the idea of a hospital come from?
Yeah, we don't really know about that because based on the previous research, we also don't show about it. But in the inscription, just tell that all four castes, all level, four level of the society can get the service in the hospital, and they are all equal. So the Brahman, royal family, businessmen, and normal people can get can access to the hospital equally and free of charge. So they don't need to pay at the hospital. But the idea why they have the ideology of the hospital come from where, we don't know. But some research just say that Khmer kingdom during Angkor period create a fabulous system, medical system, and maybe in advance before European, just something like that. At least 300, 400 years before European. Yes, before Europe.
Thank you very much, Sokro. Well, I think we're out of time now for questions. But I want to, again, thank you very much for this interesting talk from you. It's particularly interesting and useful for my own interests and study. And I'm sure the same is true for our many participants. So thank you very much. We look forward to future publications of this interesting research, and good luck on your doctoral work, and best wishes for the future. We hope to see you again soon at CKS.
Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you, especially thank you for CKS for having me today, and hope to see you in CKS soon. Thank you.
Very good.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all our attendees for coming. Appreciate it. See you next time. Good night, everybody.